What is up, team? Welcome back to the Red Storm Rapid Reaction Podcast. I'm Pat Kane, and St. John just got their ass beat for the second consecutive game. Xavier this time on our own home court, 84-79, and that 5 point difference does not tell the story whatsoever. St. John's got beat badly. They got outclassed, they got outperformed, they got outcoached. We got to see it all, and unfortunately, it was not pretty to see. Xavier got every shot they wanted, every single shot they wanted to start the first half, and they made us pay to the tune of 48 points. And we might have been able to keep up somewhat with that 37 points, but it was not because we were crisp. It was not because we were getting good looks. It was because we were able to, scramble enough steals together in that first half to get 5 or 6 easy layup opportunities on fast breaks. But in the half court, we were getting stifled, and Xavier was, put on a clinic. Put on a clinic in every shot they wanted. They were executing. They were taking their time. They were using screens. They were getting the advantage they wanted. They were running clock, and it seemed like every time they wanted to, they could get the shot they wanted. And Nunji, he's a really good offensive player. He's a 7-foot guy who's got skills inside and out. And tonight he utilized all those, and he beat up St. John's for the majority of this game. The numbers might not bear it out completely at the end of the night, but he was the best player on the floor in that first half. He dominated St. John's. He dominated Joel. And we got ourselves in quite a hole. And we were lucky to be down 11 points at the end of the half. Lucky to be behind 11 points at the end of the half. On our end, offensively, to start the game, we took a terrible shot first possession of the game. Curbelo, a fadeaway off the dribble from the corner, mid-range jump shot to start the game. I think he started the last game with that shot. He does a lot of things well. He's super talented, but he's so frustrating. And tonight he was, not an overall positive, I don't believe. 2 for 9 from the field. Missed a layup when we were down 6. Could have got us to 4. He did have a handful of nice plays. Did have 7 assists, but he also had some costly turnovers. And then him and Posh, again, we're not clicking tonight. And Posh, I'm not putting anyone else's faults on what he's done this year. A lot of this stuff has just been uncharacteristic shot attempts out of frustration, rushing things. And then that one play late in the second half, we're going to talk more about the first half, the late second half offensive rebound off the free throw against 2 other Xavier guys where somehow Posh comes up with it and makes a layup. That is the quintessential Posh Alexander play. When I saw that play happen, I thought maybe a switch has been turned or a trigger has been switched or whatever term you want to use. And we'll start seeing some better plays from Posh because that is something that only he does. And I'm starting to think maybe we just start him at power forward and let him play inside the paint. Let him set screens. Don't let him camp on the perimeter. Who knows? I mean, he can battle for rebounds like anybody knows, anybody's business. And I'm saying this only somewhat jokingly. I mean, we've seen the NBA play offsize guards as like the quasi 4 who can't shoot, or the quasi 5 because they can't shoot and they got to set screens. They got to play in that dunker spot. Obviously, we're not going to push the dunker spot. I'll stop joking, but we got to figure something out because the 30 minutes a game between the two of them, Posh and Capello, hasn't worked offensively. And never in my mind would I have felt I'd want to see some minutes with neither of them on the court. And there was a time I was saying that tonight. I will say the end run we did have in this game did come with our starting 5 on the court. That was like the first real glimpse of good extended minutes, and it was only 5 or 6 that we've seen with that crew so far against good competition. I'm including the Iowa State. I'm including the Villanova game. Maybe that's a sign of things to come, but I wouldn't take it as a promise. No way. We did make that run, like I said, and it was partly to do because eventually our pressure did pick up, and you're gonna wear a team down like Xavier, who doesn't go particularly deep, but it's far too little, far too late. And in the meantime, we can't just rely on these occasional steals to get us our offense. We gotta have some set plays. We gotta have some consistent things to go to instead of just either throwing it to Soriano, or he just sits in the post by himself with 5 guys standing still around him. And that's not even a terrible look, but it's pretty easy to defend. We're hoping he's going to be able to beat a guy one-on-one, and Nunji's a 7-footer. And he doesn't have that much space to operate because we don't stretch the floor. That's obvious. So that's not working. And if our weave, like we heard a million times tonight, isn't working, then, it's either a bad shot early in the shot clock or a hard shot late in the shot clock. And neither of those are a recipe for success, as St. John's fans can tell you. As we've seen it far too often. Tonight was kind of unfortunate if you're Coach Anderson. I doubt he was excited for this. I doubt Sean Miller, who came off looking really well, was excited for this too. No one wants to have a microphone or a camera, on you doing that stuff. But it did not go. It did not go very well from the St. John's perspective. I don't want to nitpick at small things. I'm not going to act like I'm an expert in all this stuff, but like even just looking at the huddles, you don't have to be an expert to see the difference there in terms of, connectivity and who's listening and what everyone's doing. And you can see Xavier coaches bringing over whiteboards with just the matchups on it so they could read those in the timeouts, and their players are pointing at different things and interjecting. And, everyone had a say and was engaged just from my perspective. And I was, trust me, I'm hoping to be saying the opposite, and St. John's is the one looking good, and it's not the case. It's definitely not the case. There was plenty of times where it looked like no one was saying anything, and there was plenty of times it looked like no one was listening to whoever was talking. And there was plenty of times when Coach Anderson seemed like he was asking the players if they knew what was going on, because he wasn't quite sure who some of the matchups were or what we were in. And it wasn't like hey, what we're doing? It was like, hey, what are we doing here? And that's not a good look. I don't have to reiterate. Can I think of anything that went well tonight? I'd say Montez Mathis played good. I think he did make a couple of threes that weren't great looks. He was in rhythm. He was feeling himself. He had a good game. He's confident. And you could tell as a young kid coming up through basketball, he's probably always been a scorer in college. His unorthodox shot and the way guys were able to defend him. You saw his numbers dip. It's not the prettiest look. And he has made a concerted effort, taking mostly just good shots this year. Montez with his feet set Mathis has been a mantra of mine, and I'm sticking to it. And I think when he does have his feet set, it looks like it's going in. Sean Miller thought the same thing. He was even calling him a shooter, someone they had to close out hard on. Never would have saw that coming into the year, but he continues to play well. He even finished well, through contact a few times. Wusu did some good things off the bench, hit a couple threes, also, made a few boneheaded plays, one turnover for a bucket. Comes to mind. He also, this is just a credit to Wusu as the player he is and what he doesn't get enough credit for. Stopped a 4-on-1 fast break by himself by just being back there, being who he was, while other guys were too lazy to even go back there to help him. And there was a few occasions where we were too lazy to get back on defense. Xavier missed a shot, and they were able to, pick up the rebound because we didn't pick up the scraps. When we did make our run, a couple of things point out. We got it down to 7 points with 5 minutes and 30 seconds left. Curbelo has a steal from behind attempt where he gets it cleanly. The deflection hits Soriano in the chest right at the Xavier player. I think they end up getting a couple free throws that possession. That hurt. And then we got it to 6 points later, with only a minute 45 left in the game. Curbelo had a nice take to the basket, but like I mentioned earlier, missed a layup. Soriano missed the tip in. We got to 5 with 50 seconds left. Took a couple bad shots. There was that time we let too much time off the clock. Timeout usage was tough. We called on the offensive end. We hopefully brought it up, and I don't remember during this timeout what we were to do in the situation then. We probably didn't bring it up, but the time went too long off. It went from like a minute to 40 seconds. You could hear Coach Anderson yelling foul, 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 but that's too late. You're in the flow of the game if you're not thinking. Hopefully our players have that awareness, but obviously we didn't. The only way to extend that game was to foul. There was too much time left to let it play out that way. And then the game was over. And unfortunately the game was over. Enough with me talking for so much. Let me share some screens here. Guys, again, thanks for tuning in here. I always appreciate it. The YouTube numbers, the Spotify, the Apple Podcast, all the counts. Here's the first half podcast, first half box score. Like I said, down 11 points, not box score, team score. A couple of things that stand out. Xavier 5 for 11 from 3 in that first half. We ourselves were 4 for 7, good number, but we gave up really good looks, except for that bank shot by Nunji. Who else didn't see that shit going in as soon as left in his hands? I mean, give me a break. 8 offensive rebounds by Xavier. The times that they weren't making their shots, most of the shots they were getting, again, were good looks. They were also there to clean up misses and make us pay in that regard. And then we turned it over way too much in the first half. 8 first half turnovers. A lot of those were unforced. 4 for 7 from 3, like I said, from us was good to see, but nothing we can really bank on moving forward. That's another thing I should mention. In the game we lost 84-79, we shot 8 for 17 from 3 as a team. I don't know how much of that you can expect moving forward, and it's unfortunate we had that at home and still lost by 5 points in the game. We were really beat by 10 to 12 points, it felt. Looking at the box score, a couple of things that were good. Like I said, Mathis 14 points. Wusu, good contributions, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals off the bench. David Jones, 10 rebounds. That's good. David, 19 points. That's good. 3 for 5 from three helps. 7 for 17 isn't a great number overall. That means he was 4 for 12 from two. He's got to do a better job finishing and helping us get easier points because, like I've said a million times, we just don't have great looks in the half court. So that's just not me blaming you, David. That's blaming the coach for not getting you great looks. There are times where I do think you have to be a bit more in control. You have to look to attack earlier in the game. And I'm saying this after what I just told you about 3 for 5 from three. So who knows? Maybe I'm wrong there. But anyway, 19 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal. Good box score number from Jones. Soriano got really outplayed again tonight. He's going to come out of here with good numbers, 14 and 8, pretty damn good. 3 blocks, pretty damn good. 6 for 6 from the free throw line. That's great. No matter what the competition is or who you're playing against, Soriano does look good from the free throw line. Probably the guy I trust most at the free throw line. I'm not sure what that says about our team, but we were 9 for 16 overall. That's not going to get it done. And it was, safe to say it was costly tonight. Although we did get 2 of those back off that free throw rebound by Posh I mentioned earlier. Just look at the shooting by our starters. Jones was 7 for 17, Soriano 4 for 10, Alexander 5 for 14, Curbelo 2 for 9. All 4 of those guys with sub 50. No one shot over 40% from that group from the field. And then Mathis, the lone starter with a good shooting night, 6 for 9 from the field, 2 for 3 from three. 14 points, 2 rebounds. If we have ever a night where, Jones and Soriano have a good night, Pasha, Capello have a good night, and Mathis plays well, we'll probably be pretty good. But it seems to be Mathis has his good nights on like off times. But they've been far more consistent this year. So hopefully we see a couple more with coupled with some good games from the rest of our guys. Bench, Store had 4 points, 2 for 5. He had 2 fast break layups. Good finishes off the break. Did get beat a couple of times defensively. Did also have a couple nice recoveries down low. Helped Dylan out on a paint switch where Dylan got the steal because Store recovered and helped him down low. Gave him an extra second to play defense. So he's getting better. He's seeing some more things defensively. We still need to see him around the basketball when the shot goes up. He's and maybe Coach Anderson is exclusively telling him you're to run the floor and you're not supposed to go after rebounds on the offensive end. On the defensive end, there's no excuses. But it's far too common where he's got 0 in the rebounding column. Stanley and NY had some contributions, really kind of went without notice, to be honest with you. Didn't kill us, didn't hurt us, didn't really help us either. Overall, our front court isn't the most of my concern. It's where we are as an offensive unit and getting scoring from our backcourt, finding the right balance between Pasha and Cabello. If that means staggering them, then you got to be willing to stagger them. That means putting one on the bench and even limiting both their minutes. Then you got to have the backbone to do that. I know both those guys are big minute guys. They're like the faces of the team. Pasha, especially Cabello's big time talent, came here with a lot of fanfare. You might have to have some tough, difficult conversation with those guys and make some tough, difficult decisions in terms of the rotation. That's just the way it might have to be. Store, Wusu, they played better than those guys in some stretches tonight. Store, he's got, plenty of offensive capabilities. Pinzone, when he's healthy, if he's healthy, has offensive capabilities. And you're going to have to tinker with it. And you're going to have to be willing to, perhaps upset a few people. Because tonight, is becoming far too common, it seems, in what we've seen from St. John's this year and under Coach Anderson in big-time games. If last year is the complete indication of where we're headed, then obviously it's not great. It's not great, and this year has looked more like last year than the previous year. And the previous year is when we saw some momentum in Big East play, and we saw an identity emerge from our bench scoring from Moore and Wusu and Cole, kind of getting better throughout the year. And, Moore especially had that identity as like the finisher in Big East, dunks everywhere, got called for technicals for hanging on the rim because he was kind of a jackass. We get that deal. But St. John's got better that year in Big East play and went on a run. And they're going to have to do that this year if they want to make the tournament. But right now, it does not look like I would not put a lot of money in the stock for St. John's to go to the tournament after what I've seen so far this year, especially what we saw tonight. It was not good. And I don't blame you guys if you tuned off 15 minutes ago and you don't want to hear this, but hey, appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate you guys listening. Appreciate the follows and the comments. Keep it up. For Willie Glass, this has been Pat Kane, the Red Storm Rapid Reaction Podcast. Peace.